Hi, I'm Chef Mark with Escoffier Online International Culinary Academy. It's great to welcome you back this week, as we do each week, a live webcast from our Escoffier studios here in Illinois. You know, what's so nice about our program is we are, in fact, internationally acclaimed, as you may know. I'm going to just digress for a few moments to tell you we have 1,000 students in over 16 countries, so truly internationally acclaimed, and we want to welcome them to this live session today. And feel free to chat and type your questions in. I believe you can reduce the screen down and then be able to chat and type. It's great to share what we know about food. It's amazing how many people who are food enthusiasts today and professional chefs know so many things about food. And this, for us and for you, creates a community of cooks. And that's what's great about this program. And whether you're taking a single course, the entire program of culinary arts, or taking the baking program, we hope we'll take that after. Very exciting, more courses to follow in programs. We're glad to have you here today. So no question is a wrong question. Only wrong question is the one you don't ask. So feel free to type that in. Our team will look at it and they tell me what the question is. I always repeat the question so we can all hear that and I get it clear too while I'm cooking and doing my thing, and then I answer your question for you. One thing about the Escoffier program is this October we're leading a group of foodies, students, chefs, whatever, to France. It's a 9-day trip, October 17th to the 21st. We'd love to have you attend. Come to that. It's not free, but the fun is free and the food is spectacular. We'll travel from a point of embarkation here in the U.S., fly to Nice, France, and then it's a wonderful experience. Auguste Escoffier's childhood home where he was born and lived. It's a museum today, and all the great food, legacy, and equipment, and books that he wrote. And then, of course, how could you beat Nice in October, the best time of year to go to Nice, France. A lot of great food, 2- and 3-star chefs. Perfumery, fromagerie, vigneron, all those French words, right? Farmers market. You'll want to come to that and let us know. We'll be happy to help you give information on that. So I'd like to share, I like to say we're a community of cooks, and in fact we share all that knowledge each week, and we encourage you to have friends to refer to us that may also enjoy cooking, family or friends or a neighbor. Good way to make friends if you cook, and you cook one meal, knock on the neighbor's door and share what you've learned with them. Why not? It's a great world. Food is fun. We have all that in common. Talking about fun, I'm thinking of, the summer Escoffier techniques, and that's what we're doing this summer, is all, not all, but many of the headings of Le Guide Culinaire, Escoffier's book. We're doing today a recipe adapted from the oignons, which is recipe number 4152, Escoffier's French fried sweet onion ring. So this is a great book to have. It's really not a cookbook in the sense that it gives you the method and the ingredients and describes the method, but it's for someone that really wants to know and have a book that can give them all the knowledge you need. The last 2 days we had Jeremiah Tower, the father of California cuisine. You may know his name, along with Alice Waters. Both of them discovered what was then unusual: fresh herbs, the late 60s, early 70s, fresh fish, fresh meat, unknown in American restaurants in the early 70s. He said, wow, he sees this book. He's used it all those years. He saw this online program. He's very excited. He actually wrote a book on Auguste Escoffier called A Dash of Genius. It's an book you download from the internet. Amazon has it. Great book, A Dash of Genius by Jeremiah Tower. He was here. He was enthralled and amazed with the wonder of the technology today to teach someone cooking via the internet. And he said, Auguste Escoffier probably would have been very impressed and would have endorsed it as well. So this is a good book to have and pick it up. It's on Amazon, relatively inexpensive. So I have had this issue, came out in 2011. I have the 3 previous issues, a 95 issue, a 1981 issue, and then go back. But what stood the test of time are his techniques, like making French fried sweet onion rings that we're doing today. We're making some onion rings. I was at a steakhouse the other night and I saw this platter of onion rings. I said, nice to make those, serve a beer with them, since we always do wine. onion rings and wine, I don't think go well together, but we have local craft beer, which is quite wonderful here in Chicago. We'll share that with you. So we're going to do Escaffier's French fried sweet onion rings. What you need for that is of course, the all-purpose flour. A question coming in.
What is the best pot to cook onion rings in?
Someone asked, what's the best pot to cook onion rings in? You'll need a heavy-bottomed pot, secure, not too tall, a little squat and low, so that the center of gravity, right, doesn't topple over. Right, you don't want something too high up. So you'll see when we fry them up, heavy bottom pot, two handles as opposed to one long handle you tend to bang in. You'll see I have two handles, a small brazier, or better yet, I don't know if they're George Foreman or if someone sells a tabletop fryer. Those are nice to have, and you don't have to worry about the oil every time you deep fry something. So in this case, it's French fried, deep fried. So that was the answer to that question. What kind of pot would you use for deep frying? So we're doing the recipe, the batter first, then we'll prepare the onions, and then we'll dip them in the batter. We'll fry them. We'll have a great time. Serve some beer with them, craft beer, ale actually, with them, and it'll be quite wonderful. We're going to measure up, and this recipe has for every egg is 1 cup of flour, and that's important to have that. So every egg, 1 cup of flour. So we're going to measuring your flour, as you saw. You don't want to be packing the flour in there and just press it against the side of the bowl. You don't want to be patting. That's not how you measure a cup of flour. Make sure the flour is loose and that the flour is loosened and that you pour it into. Use another small device. So measure your flour because you're baking, right? That's so important. And now Chef Susie will verify, since she's here today as well. You want to tap it a little bit, right, so it settles, even here, and then nice flat, go across. That's a cup of flour. Question coming in, great. So someone asked, is a cast iron heavy bottom pot good to use? You bet, because if you think of the Cajuns in New Orleans, French influence, they have those thick, heavy bottom pots that they deep fry in, you bet. And they only use some of those. Like a Dutch oven works great too. I picked those up at the tag sale. So yes, Dutch oven, a thick bottom cast iron, perfect, perfect thing to deep fry. You want something deep and thick. You don't want to deep fry in a thin pan. It's uneven heat, and it's not secure. So something nice and secure. I'm going to check the temp on my. I'm going to step over here for a second just to check the temp on my oil. It's looking good. Turn it up a little bit. Sorry about stepping out of camera. So this ale, I made beer batter shrimp, right? Onion rings. I think many people like it beer batter. It's foamy. What's nice, the visual of making a batter is nice. All-purpose flour. 3 eggs. 3 cups of flour. 3 whole eggs. You got 12 ounces of ale. Now you can use a pale ale, like India pale ale. It'll be very bitter. Well, we like that. Not very bitter. It'll be tart. And that cuts many times that the batter taste. So with a little, use lemon juice. You can make this with buttermilk. You say, well, I don't want to use beer. This is great with buttermilk. So it doesn't have to have alcohol all the time, right? So let's get another beer and pour it in there so we have plenty for the party today. And we'll add that to that. So any ale works, pale ale works well for that. So it's a beer batter. You can make this beer batter, I let it sit earlier, about an hour. So it sits, that allows, just the flour to get absorbed by the absorbable liquid. And there's no leavening agent. The leavening agent are the eggs, right? The eggs give it leavening and lift because the protein in the egg gives it lift, right? The protein is what lifts, like makes scrambled eggs, it puffs up. So it's the protein that gives that structure. So we have that, very nice. There's a little batter. We'll keep one bottle to taste afterwards. We'll put this aside a little bit. And then just put a little bit of that in there. I'm going to bring my spices now over here. Let's give it a stir. Make sure the flour is absorbed into it. So you make it as thin or thick as you like. So here's a nice thick batter with a good whisk. Incorporates all the flour around the edges. Now you can make a beer batter 3 or 4 hours before. We used to do it all the time for a restaurant. It does not have to be made to order. So there's a nice beer batter. Let's put that over here on this side a little bit. So we have that. The next thing we want to do is prepare our onions. And it's always nice to look at how to properly cut and peel an onion. I'm removing the root end and then the blossom end. Cut off as much as you need to secure or see the space. You don't need to hack off more than that, right? Question coming in, go right ahead. That's 3 eggs in there. Three extra large eggs. So we'll peel that skin. And what's nice about the onions is the fact when they're sweet, this is a sweet D onion. You can also pick up the Vidalia onion from Georgia. And you can also get the Walla Walla onions from Washington, right? The onion skin really doesn't have any use, or the Maui onion from Hawaii. So the onion skin really doesn't have any use at all, the onion skin. So I'll put that aside. And then we'll want to take our onion that we've did a nice job of topping and tailing it. Root end, blossom end. And then with a large slicing knife, hold on to that safely. As you know, it's a rolling product here. Secure your wrist onto the cutting board. All right, make sure it's stable. I'll use this nice, bread knife. Gives me nice half-inch. See, I hold on to my nail, secure it, cut down and away. All right, so we have some slices. We'll check my oil. Looking good. Question coming in, very good. Someone asked, use the purple onion. You sure can. It looks nice at this stage, but once the Bermuda or the red onion cooks, it doesn't keep its color as brilliant as it is when it's in the fresh state. So red onions and Bermuda onions are wonderful for salads because they really have that nice color to them. They don't look as good, but yeah, if it's sweet, you'll want to get the sweetest onion you can, and the Vidalia from Georgia are wonderful. And the Walla Wallas from Washington. And if you can, the Maui onions. And there's the sweet D, which I picked up. So look for the sweet onions. They don't have to be organic. So we want the nice rings, so I'm separating the rings. Oh, what I usually do is peel my onions and put them in the refrigerator, refrigerate them. Peel them first, keep them cold, then you won't cry so much when you have to cut them up. Now, with slicing them, it isn't so bad when you slice them. When you dice them in a closed space, right, you really get, and burn your eyes. So you can use it as far down as you want, see? They get smaller and smaller. So I save the small pieces for other uses. So if you're going to do a lot of onions, make a French onion soup, you have to slice all the onions by hand. You put in the food processor, you'll really be crying a considerable amount. Peel them, put them in the refrigerator, keep them very cold, and you'll find there'll be less onion gas, you won't cry as much. Now that we have the onion rings in the desired shape, right? At a half inch, kind of nice looking, they're going to break up. That's going to happen. You can keep uniform size more or less. We're going to season them. So they're still wet, they're damp, so we can season them with some black pepper. So this way, since the onion is a vegetable and it's damp, it'll absorb to the onion itself. So the onion will have flavor along with the batter. The batter is right, batter is king, right? But many times it's the shrimp or the potato. It doesn't have as much flavor, so we're going to salt and pepper the onions themselves. So more questions coming in, I'm sure of it, so I'm going to let Chef Susie ask some while I toss this. Right, where can you buy Vidalia onions? Usually in farmers markets in the southeast. If you're in the Midwest, then the Super D onions seem to be throughout the Midwest. And on the West Coast, the Maui or the Vidalia, they're called the eating onion. I've never bitten into a Vidalia onion. I don't know if I will, but they say they're very sweet like an apple. So we'll see what happens. A great question, by the way. All right, so salt and pepper, you want to put other spices, southwestern spice in here now. Curry, right? Toss it with that. The next step is to dredge this in flour. That's our next step. So we're going to dredge it. If the batter's resting, we're going to dredge them in flour. So they've been seasoned nicely. Your spice of choice. Little salt. And we dust them in the flour. As I mentioned earlier, you don't have to use beer for a batter. You can be buttermilk, because the nice tartness from the buttermilk gives it its great taste, right? So the ale gives it its little tartness from the ale.
We have a question. Does seasoning with salt release more moisture from the onion?
Someone asked, does seasoning with salt release more onion? I'm going to go to the stove now. Does seasoning the salt release more moisture? You are correct. If you salt things too early, you're going to, and we're going to move over to the stove now, and I'll be chatting still. If you salt items too early, they will weep, right? And by weeping, I mean that if you salt foods too early, it will draw out liquid. That's why we salt aubergines, like we did last week with the ratatouille niçoise. We salted the cubed eggplant prior to, pull the bitterness out. But also we'll make it sweat, and it'll be wet, and then it might affect the batter. So we wouldn't salt it too far ahead of time. Just like this, drop it into the batter. So that's your next step. So we'll put our onions in the oil. I have corn oil. You can use soybean oil, any oil that you prefer. It doesn't have to be corn oil. Corn oil gives it a little more, well, I guess when they sell out corn oil in the Midwest, it gives it a little more color since it is corn, so the oil is a little more of a yellow color. And that'll give the onion rings a nicer golden color, but soybean oil works fine, or canola, your choice. So you can see that now, you can see that? There's the ring, tap it on the side, hot oil, what they say in the South, hot oil or hot oil. Temperatures about 370, that's a good temperature. Now, if you're deep frying shrimp, usually 350 is better or so, depends how thick. A product like this that's very thin can be deep fried at a higher temperature.
Chef, we have another question. Can we use the same process for calamari?
Someone asked, can we use the same process for calamari? You bet. Batter calamari is nice. You get a little more, what's nice about using the batter, you get a little more volume, so a little more impressive, right? It looks bigger. Nothing wrong with that. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So if you have a calamari or a calamari, you can put that in a batter. And yeah, that would be nice. So you have, instead of just the usual fried calamari you see in the restaurant, sauteed, usually it's sauteed, you can batter it I don't see that very often. That's a great idea. Who came up with that idea? So battered calamari, great idea. Or battered zucchini is nice, especially this time of year when we have all the summer vegetables. And this is part 3 of our Escoffier technique, summer vegetables. You have eggplant is nice like this, zucchini, yellow squash, all those great things.
I have another question. Why is searing the onion rings in flour necessary for extra fun?
Someone asked, why do we dredge the onions in flour? Well, what that will do is allow, it gives the batter the ability to cling to the onion better because the onion is moist, like we said, right? And we put salt on it, so it's moist. Dredge it in seasoned flour, it'll give the onion great taste, right? And it will allow the batter to cling to it. If you just put the onion into the batter, it slides off usually. So that's a little important tip for you. So flour it first, and then batter. And that's what you always would do with, I would think, almost any vegetable, like the summer squash, same thing. Flour, batter, or flour, egg wash. Even if you do à l'anglaise, flour, egg wash, breadcrumbs, à l'anglaise, Escoffier's à l'anglaise method, or flour batter, it's still the same, always goes in flour first. So you can see the seasoning stays there, and the batter will adhere to the product. So it's wet, right? It's a vegetable.
I have another question. Does oil flash point make a difference in frying?
So someone asked, does oil flash point make a difference in frying? For certain fruit oils, you can deep fry in fruit oil. We usually don't. For example, olive oil is a fruit, almond oil. They don't. They smoke quickly. So the flash point was the point at which it ignites, or like to say the smoke point. Your more refined oils like grape seed or canola oil, which is Canada oil, which is rape seed, soybean oil, all those oils have a higher smoke point. Peanut oil, higher smoke point. So depending what you're frying in, you could definitely fry this in a mixture of pure olive oil and salad oil if you want, like the calamari. I have corn oil. You can definitely cook the calamari in the pure olive oil, the white olive oil, and soybean. Let's get a little taste, especially for calamari. But you wouldn't use extra virgin. It deteriorates too quickly. It hasn't been processed. Extra virgin means cold pressed. First pressing, it would deteriorate very quickly. So the more processed oils are best for deep frying. They hold up. Like the one in the restaurant where you order French fries. It's pretty heavy duty. Many times they use hydrogenated shortening. That was a great question.
We have another question.
Coming right up.
Can this batter also be used for things like mushrooms?
Now, someone just mentioned, can this batter be used for items like mushrooms? You bet. I've seen many restaurants have, deep fried mushrooms. You can also use this to deep fry your Twinkies. That would work very well. If they're back on the market, you can deep fry Twinkies as well in this batter. Or I think they also deep fry candy bars at fairs. So this definitely would work with mushrooms. Same idea. You can wash the mushroom, keep the stem on it. I'm not saying soaking it. As you know before, closed cap mushrooms, we said that before, can be washed, patted dry, seasoned, flour, batter, drop them in. And it's nice inside, it's steamy and moist. What's nice about deep frying, people think, oh, that's so terrible, deep frying. Deep frying is not terrible. It's the way of sealing in flavor. It steam cooks it. What's terrible is the person doesn't know how to deep fry right and things get soggy and greasy. That's the bad part of deep frying. So if you handle it properly, then you can have something beautiful if it's properly coated, right? If it's properly coated, then grease is not going to get inside there. If you floured it properly, and it's totally floured, totally battered, dropped in right over the surface. Don't drop it, bring it close to the surface and push it away from you. No way properly fried foods, as Escoffier would do it, are greasy inside, or unless they sit for a long time and someone deep fries them. That's always a bad thing, right? twice fried French fries.
Chef, could you please comment on fried green tomatoes?
So someone wanted me to comment on fried green tomatoes. That's another item that I like to put in the flour, egg wash, and cornmeal. Again, that's the process. Flour, egg wash, or cracker crumbs. But I think flour, egg wash, cornmeal is a very nice way to do that. And the green tomatoes themselves can be beautiful, especially the heirloom green tomatoes are quite spectacular. And flour, egg wash, cornmeal, and then fry those very lightly. Maybe it's a 1/4 inch of olive oil now. Since it'll absorb that, you can use olive oil. And those are great to have. Fried green tomatoes, very nice, right? Very tasty. So my onion rings, they're done. I'm going to take them out.
Chef, we have a question on chocolate. Can we roll chocolate balls in flour and then batter them and deep fry them?
Well, you can also, can you deep fry chocolate balls? Say you're making a chocolate truffle. Or what else do they have fried ice cream, right? So yes, the answer is yes. I never made fried ice cream, but Chef Susie might know the answer to that. But yes, you could no doubt take a truffle. And though this is a savory batter, you'd have to be careful what batter you would use. You might use a rice flour batter for that, because it's going to be strange with that flour around, especially this is thick like that.
Chef Susie suggests freezing the truffle first.
So Chef Susie suggests if you go to deep fry truffle, freeze it first, so it's like a frozen ice cream, it'll withstand that cooking process. So we have that done. We turn off the oil, let it sit overnight. Don't be moving it around. You want to work safe. A lot of great questions today, by the way. It's been great. I mean, it's just great to have you here, and hope you share it with your friends and acquaintances. So now, if you want to plate up, wanted to make sure everyone out there in our virtual kitchen got a chance to have a nice onion ring, so I made extra. So I'm going to put them on my plate. I had these in the oven, dished them up. You can see how nice they look. I made these 2 hours ago, kept them in the oven, still in great shape, didn't get soggy. Nice thing about batter-dipped foods, they don't get soggy. You keep them warm. There's a great Italian dish called fritto misto, which is fried fish and vegetables. And then, nice crunchy, nice little crunch to it. We're going to line those up on this nice platter.
Chef, we have another question. Would it be okay to pre-slice the onions?
Someone asked, can you pre-slice the onions? You bet you can pre-slice them. And don't salt or season them, right? Because the salt would make them wilt. Yeah, so you could cut them. You can even soak them in, if you want it thicker, even soak them in a little milk if you want, before you flour and batter them. So I have a little Russian dressing I put on there, the little sriracha sauce on there as well. You can use spicy ketchup. You can use ketchup. A little wasabi sauce on there. Well, that's looking awfully good if I do say so myself, right?
We have another question. What temperature was the oven on?
So to store the onions or any batter fried foods like they are, 175, hear that crunch? I don't know if you heard that, hear that? All right, 175, 200. Very beautiful eating the escoffier French fried sweet onion rings. Very tasty.
Chef, we have another question. Can a wheat and rice flour combination be used instead of all-purpose flour?
The question was, can rice flour be used? If you're using rice flour for batter, you're more or less making a tempura batter. So the same thing would apply. Little rice wine, little rice flour, and using an egg is beaten into that to make a tempura batter. So yeah, rice flour is very delicate. Different than the wheat flour, right? And if you want to make it for someone who can't have wheat, rice flour works very nicely.
Chef, could you go over the recipe again?
Yeah, folks want to know what the recipe was. We have 3 cups of flour, 3 eggs, and a pint of ale. Let's now bring the onions over, or I'll bring the ale over. We can talk about the ale and discuss the proper beverage with that, and we can wrap up today's class. So we have featured today with our Escoffier French fried sweet onion rings, 312. 312 is made by Goose Island. They are a brewery in Chicago proper, city proper. It's called Urban Wheat Ale, so they grow the wheat within the environs of the city and county of Chicago. So it says in the batter, you'll find a nice affinity and pour it off onto the side to preserve some of the head. This is one of those craft beers that you'll see America had for over 100 years, and then we went to the industrial beer, now we're back to the craft beer. So that it's important not to use your beer glasses for milk or other dairy products. Keep them, beer glasses are beer glasses and wine glasses are wine glasses. Then you have that nice head on. Ale is a process where it sits a little longer and it's aged a little bit, so it gives a little nicer flavor. A little more tang to an ale. Some people don't care for ale, a little tangy. So this is a 12-ounce bottle, and it fits into my 12-ounce beer glass. How do you like that? We hate to miss out on anything. Every drop counts, right?
Chef, we have another question. Is it okay to use ginger ale?
So someone asked, can I use ginger ale? You bet. If you don't want to use buttermilk or beer, ginger ale, the bubbles, and it's ginger. What a great idea that is. Ginger ale or birch beer, ginger ale, the ginger and carbonation, very nice for this great dish today. Great suggestion. As we wind up today's session, I'll be on the chat after, and I'll be chatting with you, ask questions, and as always, we want you to respond to us at chefmark@escoffieronline.com. We're happy to take your calls and your emails, and if there aren't any other questions pending, I'll wait a few moments. If there are any questions pending, then we'll go ahead and taste some of these great Escoffier French fried onion rings. And I'm glad you joined us this week. Look forward to seeing you online. Look forward to seeing your assessment. We enjoy getting your assessments each day. It's exciting for us as chef mentors to help all of you become successful in your cooking. Share it with your neighbors. And I think that's no more questions coming, so I'm going to bid you adieu, and I'll be on the chat very shortly. Thanks for being here with us today at Escoffier Online, and look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day, and bon appetit.